Hey, everyone. Welcome to this edition of More Than Just Insurance Podcast. I am so happy today to have the honor of welcoming William Isaac Traylor, an accomplished author and thought-provoking leader whose work has captivated readers with depth, insight, and relevance. With a unique ability to weave compelling narratives and provide practical wisdom, William has written a book that challenges conventional thinking and inspires transformational action. His journey as a writer and the lessons embedded in his work resonate with audiences from all walks of life, making him a powerful voice in the literary and professional world. We're excited to dive into his story, explore the key themes of his book, and uncover the impactful messages that have left such a profound mark on his readers. Now, he is the father of 6 children and 5 grandchildren. He is an entrepreneur, a businessman. He is a 1991 graduate of Camden High School. He is a client of the Jay Hines agency, but most importantly, he's my friend and brother, William Isaac Traylor. My imitation of Danny Sharp and Club Shay Shay, but Club JJ today. So welcome to the podcast, Isaac. What's going on, man? Talk to me.
Man, thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here, man. Thank you.
Well, pleasure having you. So without further ado, we're going to dive in and start looking at overall themes to the book. I want to ask you what inspired you to write the book.
Well, after changing my life and giving my life to God, it showed me some things. As I rode around town, seeing a lot of the homeless people, I could relate to them. And I just said, well, hey, look, I need to share my story. If my story can just touch one person's life, I've done my due diligence. And I just wanted to show people that regardless of where you are in life, how deep you may be, that God can pull you out of it. And I'm living proof. From where I began to where I am now, it was all the act of God and then the want to. Of course, you have to want to change in order to change. But I just wanted to get my book out so people can see it from another perspective and not from some counselor or doctor. Because if you ain't walked in them shoes, you can't really tell nobody else how to come out of nothing.
Right. It's kind of a real person perspective on real life.
Right. Most
real challenges. But let me ask you this question. When did you know I had to write this book?
One day I went home and I just saw all the same people doing the same thing. And it had been years since I had been home. Got to see some of those people. And I'm like, man, they got to change. And if they can see how I've changed, maybe it'll inspire them to do something.
Okay. My last question, who was your target audience for this book?
Anybody that may be straddling the fence, whether it be with addiction, whether it be shopping, gambling, any kind of addiction that's keeping you from thriving. Anybody. I mean, women, men, children, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, anybody that may be dealing with something that's keeping them from on a better life.
Excellent. For our listeners, there's 4 key overviews and themes. The first one is pivotal moments that shaped the plan to addiction or the path, and the transformational insight, moral lessons, and spiritual journey within addiction. And then we're going to look at number 3, overcoming addiction through faith and surrender to God. And then finally, number 4, Isaac's redemption, his personal responsibility and power of God's grace. So anything you want to add, Isaac?
Well, no, I can relate to all of them and I can give some insight on all of them. So no, those are great, Jay.
Well, I've got 2 people that are very close to you. I want you to talk about your parents here.
My father, he's deceased now. He helped shape my life in good and bad. But my dad was hard-nosed. Daddy used to always tell me, ain't nobody gonna give you nothing. You got to get up and work for it. And I saw my dad with a 9th grade education rise up in the ranks of working on the railroad from a laborer to a foreman. And he had some side hustle along the way. But my dad was a hard worker. He was straight up hustle. And I saw that. And he was successful. My dad owned 2 18-wheelers. We owned a grocery store. He had a nightclub. And I'm like, well, if he can do this with a 9th grade education, couldn't have read, couldn't have write. But I saw how he struggled to hustle to make sure my family had a decent life. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad either. I saw both sides of the fence from my dad and my mom.
Okay, so staying there with your dad, I want to get this in here real quick.
Okay.
Some conflicts that you were fighting with in the book, how your mom and dad interacted and how it affected you coming up as a man. And then that kind of led me to this question that did you have a reason to hold a grudge against your father when your mom and dad divorced?
At one point, I was kind of angry because they got divorced. No kid want to see their mom and dad divorced. But I also got the opportunity to see another side of my dad from him and my mom not being together. When they got divorced, I lived with my mother. But I still had a relationship with my dad. You know, he was always in my ear. Got make sure you keep your grades, make sure you do that. And then I was a teenager father, and my daddy, he pulled me to the side early. And he said, look, you're doing grown man stuff. I'm 13, 14 years old. I'm like, hold up, man, you my daddy. You can't do that. But he was like, you stepping in to the big leagues now. It's time to go to work. So I've been working ever since. And he taught me responsibilities early. Just what he said. Ain't nobody gonna give you nothing. Get up and work for it. My daddy made me buy my first car. I gave him $500. 1977 Ford Thunderbird. Had me some Turbo Tech light tires on and a realistic radio in it. I thought I was the stuff, boy. I had to earn enough money to buy my car for my dad. I mean, I had to work enough to save up to get it. And he was just teaching me responsibilities. I was mad. I'm like, nah, you supposed to be giving me this. He was like, no, you gonna work for this. And then he also told me, once you pay for your own stuff, you'll appreciate it more than somebody giving it to you.
Let me throw this in there. So your dad's making sure you're responsible, but then your dad is struggling with his own demons. In turn, you had a resentment for it to a certain degree, or back to that grudge again. What was going on there with what he was going through?
I saw my dad. He was a womanizer. I saw him use women because, see, my dad dabbled and dabbled with drugs as well. And I saw that. And I saw him doing that early. Kind of rubbed off on me. So therefore, I didn't hold a grudge, but I was like, well, dang, this my daddy doing. Now here it is, I'm looking at life totally different because I'm seeing my daddy do certain things. And then later on in life, I saw myself doing them same things I saw my daddy. Now, I'm telling you, my daddy was a wonderful father. He just didn't do all the right things. But as far as raising me, he raised me the best way he knew how. And that's how I raised my kids, the best way I knew how. Because one thing about being a parent, it don't come with instructions. It's trial and error all the way through. So he did the best he knew how. But no, I hold a grudge. I was kind of angry because certain things didn't go the way I thought they should have as a kid. But it made me grow up early. Here I am, 14, 15, I'm running with grown folks because I had to start doing grown folk stuff, trying to support my kids because daddy wasn't giving me nothing else no more. So here it is. I'm trying to work, hustle, and do what I needed to do to try to keep gas in my car and make sure I had my little money for my football and basketball games. But I made it happen. And that's just because I saw how my dad would hustle.
Now you're at a crossroads here. Your dad's out of the house. You're the man of the house now. How did that go?
See, daddy was hard-nosed, hard knocks, no nonsense. And mama was, okay, well, we going to pray about it. We're going to pray about it and it's going to be all right. And daddy was like, no, get your butt up and go to work. But then on the flip side of that, I was the only boy. I was the youngest child. And I was flat out a brat. I was spoiled by my sisters, my mom, and my dad. But in all that, I was 14. My grandmother got sick. So my mama moved her in with us and gave me her house. So here I am now, 14 years old. I just bought a car for my daddy, and now my mama done gave me my grandmother's house. So here it is. I got a car and a house at 14, finna be 15, and then already finna be the parent of a child. It was like, wow. Here I am, 8th grade, 9th grade, got a car, got a house, and then got a kid. Finna have another kid. Mind you, Jay, I had 2 kids for my 10th grade year.
It wasn't meeting your mother's expectation, and she was there for you. Talk to us about that.
Mama was always there for me, regardless of what I did or what I didn't do. Mama was always there, showing that unconditional love. It was, baby, everything gonna be all right. We'll get through this. We'll get through that. In the book, I didn't feel like I was being the perfect son as a kid and as an adult, but my mama never made me feel no kind of way. She always would encourage me. She would always, regardless of what I was doing, even in the midst of my drug addiction, I would be working it. Mama would still give me money to get gas, get back. Here I am, I'm making more money than she was. But she would still help me because she didn't want to see me fail.
That leads me to this. You apologized to your mother. What brought this on?
After I got clean, I realized how special she was to me. And I had to thank her for always being there, for always coming to school when things wasn't going right, for always being in my football, basketball, and track meets, for always coming to my parent-teacher conference, for whooping my butt when I was out of line. I had to go back and thank her for that because that molded me and it shaped me. And regardless of my addiction, I still had a firm foundation all because of what she did when I was younger. At some point, everybody's going to stray. But if you got that firm foundation, you'll know how to come back. And I thank God I had a firm foundation from my mother and my father. But even though both of them had different traits, they still laid a foundation for me. And I'm standing on that foundation today.
Excellent. We're going to move on from your parents, and we're going to get into what you had mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Take a dive into this one. We are both cabinet fighting, alumni Panthers, but I wanted to get to your story here. You have 2 children before the age of 15. Take me through that.
Let me see. My 8th grade year, I had a child. I had 2 children before my 10th grade year. I didn't know what I was doing, Jay. I was just doing it. Once again, my mom and dad picked up my slack. I wasn't able to take care of no kids, but I ended up having to go to work. I was doing what I could to buy milk and for my children. Yeah, that was it. My teenage years weren't bad. Now, mind you, Jay, I was a pretty decent athlete in school.
I know.
I was a pretty decent athlete. I just around the wrong people. I had access to too much too early. Not blaming my mom or daddy for it, because I wasn't out there in them streets doing goofy stuff. I wasn't getting in no trouble. I wasn't doing nothing. I was trying to drink me a little old beer. So I wasn't doing nothing to throw up no red flag where mom and daddy would be worried about me being in them streets, not publicly.
You were basically shielding them from the real deal. Or you were living a double life, so to speak.
I guess you could say that. I was a pretty good athlete. Going into my senior year in high school, I was #1 hurdler in the state of Arkansas. Could have went anywhere in the United States, pretty much I wanted. I mean, I had scholarship to Syracuse University.
Let me throw this in there. Now, your daughter is a track star.
Yeah.
And she just graduated, accomplished trackster.
Yeah, she got comeback player of the year 1 year down there in her school. She had a lot of different accolades. Apple don't fall too far from the tree.
That's right. I want to throw that in there and get some confirmation.
Oh, yeah.
From there, you have grown up quick.
Yeah.
You got the popularity as an athlete. And now you're going from drinking a little beer to a little marijuana to hanging out.
Yep.
So let's go to that gateway drug and then how that led to some jail time for you.
I started smoking a little weed. Weed just wasn't doing nothing for me. It just wasn't doing nothing for me. So crack epidemic came out back in the early 90s. And I started seeing how it was doing other people.
Yeah, but let's go back. Let me unpack something real quick.
Okay.
It wasn't doing nothing for you, because that's kind of deep. What do you mean the marijuana wasn't doing nothing for you?
It wasn't getting me where I wanted to get.
Well, where did you want to get, Jay?
I don't know. But what I'm going to tell you, I had some real close friends. They started selling crack. And I kept seeing how the folks kept coming back. Bam, bam, bam. I'm like, man, what is in this stuff? So I said, well, look, I'm finna try this. That was the worst mistake I made. But at first, it was just once every so often. Then it became every night. And then just one wasn't doing it. So that's when the money started going. I'm like, oh, God. After so many years went by, man, I'm spending $200-300 a week. Wasn't getting me there. Over time, man, just a little bit wasn't enough.
You kept searching for a higher. I've heard that.
I was searching for something that I was never going to find. But I was looking. I was trying to get there. And that's what made you spend so much money. You searching and you seeking. It's like you chasing a ghost. Or you chasing something that's not there. And I was on that roller coaster, Jay, for over 20 years. Over 20 years. I said, okay, well, I'm going to leave Arkansas and go somewhere else. Better myself. I moved to Atlanta. Okay.
Well, hold that thought. We're going to get to that one.
All right.
I know you're cooking, bro. Let's go here. You explain a value system inside your addiction. That's intriguing. How could you have a value system and basically make it make sense, as they say?
Mama and daddy raised me with morals. Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you. And regardless of what I was doing, those morals were still instilled in me. I would go to the drug man, the dope man. When he give me what I'm getting, I'm going to say thank you, because it was instilled in me. And even as I got further out there, I still had that my mom and dad had taught me. It was just, you wasn't going to talk to me crazy. You wasn't going to take my car and run all over town for a piece of dope. It was just certain things that I wasn't going to tolerate, regardless if I was on drugs, homeless or not, because I was raised different. Regardless of what I was doing, I still had values that my parents had taught me along the way. And just because I was using drugs didn't mean I was supposed to throw those out the window, because once again, I still had a foundation. That foundation just wasn't going to fall off the map because I was doing drugs.
Well, how did you balance it, though? There's got to be an internal conflict going on right there.
I ain't going to so much say internal conflict. Even though I was doing wrong, I still had to do what my mom and them taught me. Just because the lifestyle I was living didn't mean I had to be some villain. I was one of the nicest crackheads you probably going to find.
Right.
But once again, those are the things that my parents taught me, man. And I couldn't just throw that out the window.
All right. So we're going to move on, and we're going to get into where you was going with that good old hot Atlanta.
Atlanta wasn't no joke, boy.
I know, but let's go back one, because we didn't get to the jail time.
Okay. Well,
So let me step back for just a second. What was going on there? And then we'll come back to Atlanta real quick.
Well, actually, the jail time was after I come from Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So we'll stay in sequence then. So let's stay with Atlanta then. Let's go there.
So when I went to Atlanta, man, I was searching. I was running. I left Arkansas, went to Atlanta, going to try to better myself. For a little while, I was doing this. I got into the church and I was seeking. And I had my kids, my last two children was with me in Atlanta. And I was doing wonderful. I was working. Matter of fact, I was working on the railroad. Jay, I was making almost $100,000 a year working on the railroad. So it wasn't like I was hurting for no money. Okay, I fooled around and got into a relationship, and it didn't go the way I planned. It sent me back to my comfort zone, and it was a spiral effect. Everything that I had worked my way back to, getting my self-pride back, getting my children in a proper school, and getting me a home down there, everything I had worked for, it took me about 1.5 years to lose it all.
So you talked about being under a drug dealer's control during that time frame.
Man, I had fooled around and run into some friends down there. At least I thought they were some friends. But they was a couple of them was big time. I mean, they were big time. They were supplying half the town. And they had got to the point where they'd come to the house and do this and do that while my daughters was at school. And no drug activity was ever going on around my kids. I didn't do that, and they respected my household for that. But they made sure things was going good at the house. And then one night, I had went to work and was high. I was high. And I crushed my hand in a door at work. I mean, I almost chopped my thumb off. And I was high. I was real high. But I didn't go to the doctor at work because if I would have, they would have made me take a drug test. So I went home and had one of my daughters pee in a cup for me. And then I went to the doctor. And that took me, I was off work for almost 2 years behind that. But during them 2 years, those guys made sure my household was straight. Certain things while my kids was at school, made little drug transactions and stuff. They kept me high. So
it was a form of rehabilitation while you had suffered that injury. Were you also using the drugs as an excuse for the injury? Or using the injury as an excuse for the drugs? I'm sorry.
No, I was just getting high. Ain't no sense of me blowing no smoke. No, I was just getting high. Because it was going to heal. It was just going to take a little time because I crushed all my bones in my hand, in my thumb. So that wasn't no easy heal. But all that time, man, all while I was in the healing process, I was getting high. And I didn't stop. It seemed like the more I got high, the more I wanted to get high. And it was just like a cycle that I couldn't break. All while I'm going through this now, I'm still raising my daughters by myself. Their mother wasn't in the picture. I'm doing the best I could raising them, trying to be a father and still trying to stay loyal to the drug man. I made it through that. But in the process of that, I had a little hiccup with one of the drug dealers. Ended up going to jail. So the finances wasn't right at my house. And one of the ladies that in the school PTA, I was president of PTA, but one of the ladies had mentioned something to her about my life getting ready to get cut. She not knowing, she trying to help. So she went to some of the other ladies, hey, well, Mr. Traylor going through some changes, and they end up saying something to the folks at the school. So the folks at the school told this social worker. The social worker come to the house and I done flat out cussed her out. I'm talking about them went off on them. And then myself, I'm thinking, well, they finna try to take my kids. So I called my mama. I need to send the kids home too, this didn't happen, that didn't happen. I called her on a Tuesday. Wednesday evening, my mama was at my house to get my kids. And mama don't drive now, not like that. Not at that time. She didn't have somebody bring her to Atlanta to get my kids. Because I told her, I said, Mom, I'm scared they may try to come down and get my kids. I clowned on this woman. I told her to get out my house and then call all kind of everything I could think of. I sent the kids home, Mom. And all while out, during that process, man, everything just went downhill. So I found myself homeless in Atlanta. And that same lady that had mentioned something to the school saw me walking one day. And she said, what you doing? I said, well, she said, well, look, come. Get in. She made me get in the car with her. She took me to her house and she fed me. And I didn't know what she was doing, but she was in her other little room typing, now what city was that you said you was from and this and that and the third? And I told her this and that. She came back with a bus ticket. She told me to go home.
Was this before your father passed away?
No, this was all before Daddy passed away.
Okay, you hit rock bottom. You're at your friend's house. You call her the guardian angel lady.
I call my white mama.
This is not the place for you now.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, how's your father's death and your nephew's belief in you? How did that actually come about?
Well, I moved back to Arkansas. See, I had been back roughly, about 3-4 years. I got back. I was doing good you get around them same old folks that you were hanging around before you left the first time.
Right.
And there you go, right back in that cycle. And that's why I tell anybody, you got to change people and places and things, man, if you want to do better. You can't hang around the same folks and expect. You can't live in the same environment where you got sick.
Right.
Not if you want to do better. But yeah, once I moved back to Arkansas, I got myself back on my feet, got me a car, got me another job. But I got around them same old folks, man. And here it is again. I'm right back smoking dope. And it didn't take but a minute. I was right back, man. I'm getting high every day. And it got to the point where I didn't even want to work, because if I went to work, I couldn't get high. So I didn't
you was enjoying that high so much. It
had become a
lifestyle. It was,
I mean, and when I tell you, and when I say I got high, I wasn't playing. But I knew all the dope dealers. I could go any time of day or night. I could go, because I had a relationship with them. Hey, man, I could go at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when other folks couldn't. And during the day, I would be running errands for them, hit me with drugs. Sometimes late at night, I have more dope than some of the little petty dope dealers. They would call me, hey, man, what you got? What you want? It's going to cost you. But ran all day, and I be having me just as much dope as some of the other ones. I'm trying to hang out. I'm trying to trick off. I'm trying to just hang out. But that was my lifestyle, man. And I did that for couple of years. I didn't want to get high. All I needed was a car and a cell phone, and I'm good.
Well, what happened? How did you end up going to jail then?
Mama, my sister, my oldest sister, had came and got my mama and brought her to Little Rock. So I was in Camden by myself. And one day I was hungry, Jay, and I went in a store and stole a 99-cent pack of bologna. Too much pride to ask somebody. So I went and got me a pack of bologna and walked out. And in the process of walking out the store, somebody saw me. They tried to stop me. I got in my car and drove off. They didn't get me then, but I got pulled over traffic stop. They said, we arresting you for robbery. I said, man, oh, boy, you talking about cuss the police out. Oh, I snapped. Man, I ain't robbed nobody. This, that, and the third. But I went to jail, Jay, for 84 days for a 99-cent pack of bologna.
So three months in jail over 99-cent bologna.
Yeah. That was the best thing out for me, because God had to slow me down. And that was the only way he was going to slow me down. Just put me somewhere where I couldn't manipulate my way out of. Couldn't talk my way out of that. Once I heard them doors cling, cling, it was over. It wasn't no, hey, man, let me talk to you. Let me do this. Let me do that. No, it wasn't none of that.
Now, Talk County Jail. It's hell. That's what I heard.
It were people that come in there that had been to the pen. Said they'd rather be in the pen than in the county. They treat you like garbage. It was always cold in there. I mean, it was miserable. And they had that late night water drip. You hear it. Drip, drip. I mean, that would drive you crazy in the middle of the night. That's what you hear. Like a mind game they playing, and you couldn't turn it off. When I was locked up, they put my dad in hospital, and I was in there, was praying, God, just let me see my daddy one more time. And there was a white guy in there locked up with me. And he walked up to me one day and said, man, look here, you gonna preach. I said, man, if you don't get the F away from me, I'm trying to get me a little sleep. I'm not finna do no preaching. But he stayed in there about 2-3 days after that. And I found myself preaching in every evening out of a daily bread and a little old adventure Bible. And Jay, when I said God was using me then and I didn't even know it, I would just get up in the middle of the night and start writing. And it lights out. I would walk down there and I start preaching to the guys in the park. They received me well. They would stop gambling. They would stop playing cards and everything until I got finished. And God was just showing me, hey, look, man, if you just submit to me, I could do some things. And once I got out, that was short-lived because I went right back to doing what I was doing. But I got out. When I got out, my daddy lasted about maybe a month. I got out in March. My daddy died in May. I got to see him. I got to go spend a weekend with him, talk to him. But we would talk before he passed. We would talk on the phone. When my daddy died, that was the pivotal point in my life, the changing point of my life.
Your father passes away. Your sister distanced themselves. When he passed away, they really didn't trust you being a part of the preparation.
I ain't going to say they distanced myself. I'm going to say that they didn't know how to deal with it.
Okay.
And this is just my thinking, because I had nothing to offer. I had no money to contribute. I had nothing. And therefore, they didn't consult me with none of the preparations of the funeral, none of the decisions in reference to my daddy. And that hurt. If you ain't never been hurt before, that's the hurtful feeling for your immediate family to shun you like that.
Like you say, you didn't have anything to offer.
Yeah.
But was there also some trust factors there with you?
Well, I don't know if it was trust factors or not. I mean, I don't know, Jay. I never talked to him, but I just kind of left it alone because I wanted to act a fool. I wanted to just really show out. I can remember the day when we went to the funeral home. My siblings, they just know that I was finna come in there and cuss everybody out. I wanted to. They knew me too. My nephew stopped me He said, Uncle, I believe in. He said, you gonna make it through this. You all right. And I'm gonna tell you, when I got in there and I looked at my daddy laying in that casket, all I could hear my daddy saying with me was, you gonna be all right. Them same ones that counted you out, they gonna see you rising again. And that's why I work the way I do now. It's not that I got nothing to prove to nobody, but my drive now, as a kid, every son wants their daddy to be proud of. And when my daddy died, how could he be proud of a homeless drug addict? So I'm proving this to myself. I'm making my daddy proud by what I'm doing now. And my purpose now in life is to just help as many people as I can with the resources that I have. It wasn't an easy journey. It still ain't easy. I've been clean now for some years, but I also don't put myself in no compromising position to where I got to choose my sobriety over wanting to hang out with somebody, because it's not that serious to me anymore. I like waking up in my right mind. I like waking up with some money in my pocket. I like waking up not wondering if somebody looking for me because I owe him some money. My life is good now, Jay. I'm living my best life till the day that my daddy died so I could live. He knew it was going to take something drastic for me to change my lifestyle. And I think to the day, when he closed his eyes, he knew that was going to change me. And it did. I'm grateful to my father for the things he taught me along the way. All of them wasn't pretty, but I learned some stuff from him. I learned some things what not to do. And I learned a lot of things what to do. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't go back and swap daddies with nobody, because my daddy was my dad. And I learned a lot from him. I love him.
Well, we're going to move on here. Coming from that, you have some awesome quotes in the book during your addiction. You've overcome, and these are some of the things that sin had finally taken me out years before my Bible told me this would happen. Talk to me about that one.
Well, once again, when I was in jail, really got in my word, man. I really started digging and reading. And the Bible tells you now, but it'll tell you when you take your focus off God, things will happen to you. And I took my focus off God, and my life was a spiral. I was going downhill. And that's where that quote comes from. It's a sin had taken me out years before. My Bible had told me this would happen. The Bible tells you.
Your friends were dope men.
All my friends was a dope man. So I couldn't stop. I knew I was living a life of sin. I knew I was living a life that was going to run me straight to hell. I was confused that I felt like they needed me. If I ain't here to run these errands, to make this drop, to pick this up for them, who going to do it? They trusted me to do so much. Trusted me. Because they knew I was going to be there when they needed me. I was going to answer the phone any time of day or night. And I was going to do what they needed me to do and come on back. It ain't like I'm going to run off with the stuff.
Oh, man. So you just had a job. You had a work ethic within your addiction.
Certain days of the week, I knew Mondays was this, Tuesdays was this, Wednesdays was this, Saturdays and Sundays was all night long days. It was a job, and I was just getting paid with dope. I was running a major operation.
So then we talked about the moral compass inside of your addiction. And he said, even though I got high and was homeless, I still had standards.
Yeah. Once again, mom and dad taught me to be polite, and you help people because it's the right thing to do. If somebody pay you, that's fine. If not, God got you.
You were taught, coming from Camden and a lot of small towns, the bottom line is our parents said, hey, you got to do something that doesn't benefit you. Don't be afraid to do something that doesn't benefit you.
Right.
That benefits others, to be a servant. And we saw a lot of examples of servants in our lives growing up in Camden. It was about people serving people and not worrying about serving yourself.
That's it.
That leads us to the things that you're holding on to, maybe the very things you need to let go of.
Most definitely. A lifestyle. I was a drug addict. When I was holding on to it, I didn't want to let go. But that was the very thing that I needed to let go of. And it don't always have to be drug. It could be bad relationships. It could be bad jobs. It could be people in your life that disrespect you or take advantage of you that you need to distance yourself from. We have to get back to loving ourselves, because if we don't love ourselves, we can't love nobody else. So we have to distance ourselves from certain things. People, places don't mean us well. That one thing that you're holding on to could be that one thing that you let go of and your life would thrive.
So that just reminds me of what Mama Hines used to tell me. You ain't better than nobody. You just better than something.
Yeah.
So you better than doing that, doing this. You better than that.
Right.
So what really intrigued me was this one here that I didn't post.
Okay.
You were dead spiritually and emotionally.
I was a dead man walk. I didn't have a care in the world. My only thing was and get higher and keep going. Spiritually, I've always had a relationship with God, but I wasn't practicing it. Emotionally, I didn't care about nobody but myself. It was all about me. And I didn't care who knew it. But yeah, spiritually, man, my spirituality was gone. Mind you, before I did a bunch of riding around or driving, dropping off this, dropping off that, I would always take a minute to pray because I would ask God to save me or deliver me as I'm driving up and down the road. I would just ask him to protect me. So I'm dropping this off, or I'm dropping that off. By the grace of God, I never went to jail with a car full of dope. I never got caught. And mind you, I'm riding around town with no tags, no insurance. I'm just rolling.
How dare you go without insurance?
Boy, I know I rode a year with no insurance, tags expired. It was by the grace of God, though. And when I got pulled over that night and went to jail, I didn't get no ticket for none of that.
They just want you for the robbery.
That's it. So I'm like, look at God. Even when I wasn't doing right, he was still looking out for me. And by all means, I'm not here to push my religion off on nobody. But God protected me when I wasn't even trying to protect myself. Now, why wouldn't we serve a God like that? Those wasn't coincidence.
That was definitely that you wasn't realizing.
But that's the God we serve, man.
Now you've turned yourself around and you're a big time entrepreneur, businessman.
By the grace of God.
And so you start 3I. We talked about this earlier. I got to show this one. What does 3I mean? And then talk about your fourth to the foundation there.
Okay.
Faith in business.
What 3I stands for, the I stands for Isaac, Ikea, and Isa. Those are my children names that hold my same last name. That's where the 3 I's come from. Okay. And the 4 tools, the first one is faith and foundation. Transformation stems from God's intervention, viewing cleaning business as a renewal metaphor. For me, God delivered me. I was working for the factory I felt like wasn't treating me right. This was in the middle of a pandemic. I quit a job in the middle of a pandemic. Who does that? Me, of course. But I had been praying. God showed me something different. And I started washing cars out the trunk of my car. I was riding around Little Rock with a water hose and a little shop vac that I had got at the pawn shop. And word got around. Have y'all seen this little guy that's running around here washing folk cars? And it just expanded. About a year into it, my pastor gave me a van. And I went to a flea market and brought me a pressure wash. And man, when I tell you, business just exploded. But once again, that was another answered prayer, because I had just been asking God to show me what he wanted me to do. And working for an individual wasn't it. I've always had a passion with washing cars, and Jay, just as well as I do. Growing up, every Sunday, Camden was a car show.
Oh, yeah. Driving your car through Florence or Howard Clark Park, too.
Yeah. We'd be at the car wash all Sunday morning washing our car just to ride down through the park. So I've always had a passion for cleaning, washing cars. So I started washing cars, man, and it just took off. And then I got introduced into pressure washing. And matter of fact, the guy right down the road from Camden, he lived up here, and he was showing me some things. And do this, man, do that, man. And it just took off, man. And I started talking. God started putting the right people in front of me, some entrepreneurs and some big business owners. And then I started going into some of the high class neighborhoods.
Right. But that leads to that number 2, the setting goals. Yeah. And being inspired by positive influences.
That's it, man. That's number 2. God put the right people in my path. They would start telling me, hey, man, try this. Go talk to these people. And it started. And then I kept me a little pad, and I'd be writing. If they tell me stuff, I'd be writing it down. And I get home and I pray over it, and I stick it on my little vision board. Bam, things just start manifesting. And then that runs us into number 3. When I'm talking to people, when I'm out and about, I'm very kind to them, because that's customer service. And I'm always asking them, what can I do to better myself? Was it anything that I may have missed that I could have done better? And before long, we just sit there and held a 45-minute conversation, and it wasn't always about the car. We'd be talking about business adventures. We would start talking about other things that they see where I could do to expand my business. And once again, God was just putting the right people in my path to elevate me. And that moves us on to 4.
Your mantra.
Dream big, pray hard, and watch God. And that's all I done. I dreamed big. I dreamed. I wrote it down, I prayed about it, and I let God do the rest. Jay, I started off washing cars out the trunk of my car. Now I got a van, a flatbed truck, a pickup truck, and a 12-foot trailer mounted with pressure washing equipment on it. I don't just wash cars. I pressure wash houses, decks, concrete. I fleet wash trucks, vehicles, buses, vans. I clean up apartments. I do new construction cleanup. And my thing now, if it's dirty, I clean it up. I get paid to play in water. I get paid to make water splash. Right now, I'm at a point in my life where I'm proud of myself. Every day, I know my daddy proud of me. So those are my driving forces, man, that if I could run all night for the dope man, making somebody else money, why I can't do this to make me some money. Make sure my family got a roof over their head, food to eat, clothes to wear, nice car to drive. I was doing it for somebody else that didn't care about me. Because if they cared about me, they wouldn't have been using me the way they were.
Right.
But,
and I take the same philosophy. I was working for somebody else. I was like, if I could do this for somebody else and be diligent and concerned about everything, I can do that for myself as well. You start this nonprofit.
Yes.
The question here is going to be, what was the passion behind iCare?
Well, the passion for me was especially the homeless population. I could see myself in some of the guys and ladies that I get the opportunity to minister to on the side of the road, under the bridges. I'm no better than them. I just want somebody to know they cared about. That's my mission. Feed the homeless and give hope to the hopeless. I want to make sure everybody know that somebody care about them, whether it's giving them a sack lunch, some hygiene material, offering them a word of prayer, or just going out, just sitting there listening to them talk, because they got feelings too. They may not have some of the luxuries that other people have, but they got feelings just like we do. So my thing is, I just want them to know that I care about it. I would see the folks on the side, and I went home one day and asked Mom, I said, Mom, what can I do to help these folks? She said, well, baby, just give them something to eat. So I started making sandwiches and taking out toothbrush, toothpaste, and socks. And it grew from there, man. And now I try to go out at least once every 2 months and take out sack lunches, blankets, gloves, hats, whatever the case may be. And I'm in the process of trying to find some grant writers, because there's a lot of funds out there for the homeless population. So that's my mission, man. I mean, I ain't trying to save the world. I just want to do my part. I just want somebody to know that the ones that are less fortunate, somebody care about.
Excellent, man. That's real, so profound. And this whole conversation has been excellent. Let's move on here. So I want to give you an opportunity to go through some of your key takeaways, go over the personal accountability, embracing change, message of hope, and your final thoughts here.
Okay. Personal accountability. My main thing is you got to take responsibility for your own action. You can't do the blame game. And for me, I chose to get high. Nobody put no gun in my head and made me get high. So all the decisions that I made, nobody made me do it. So I had to take accountability for what I was doing in order for me to change. You can't change steady blaming people. You can't excel blaming people. I'm embracing change. I love where I am now. I have embraced the change, and I also wanted to change. Nobody wanted it for me. You can't want it for your brother, your sister, your mama, your dad. They got to want it for themselves, because until they want it for themselves, it's going to be a cycle. I wanted it, but I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do what it took. But until, like I said, until my daddy died, man, I couldn't do it no more. I didn't want my mama to see me like that anymore. So I embraced change. And my main thing now is make sure everywhere I go, my mama go. She saw her baby boy down and out. Now I want her to see me rising to the top.
And I see you guys take a whole bunch of pictures together. She is so down for some pictures. I love it.
Boy, that's my gal, man. And I tell anybody, I do a lot of speaking around town and stuff. I'm bringing my mama. If mama can't come, I ain't going, because that's the reason I'm here today. My mama prayed a lot of long nights for me, Jay. She cried a lot of tears for me. So why not
go into that message of hope? Right there, definitely. You want her to share in your redemption.
Yes, that's it. Exactly. I wish my daddy were here, but he with me. He just ain't here physically. But mama is. And I'm going to make doggone sure everywhere I go, she go. Whenever I get on Good Morning America and all that kind of stuff, she going to be right there with me. I ain't going by myself.
On your final thoughts here, what's the one thing you want the listeners to come away with?
No matter where you are in life, God will pull you through. You just got to make up your mind to do it. You got to be ready to embrace the change. You got to cut some people off, family members, husbands, wives. You have got to change. In order for you to change your situation, you got to change. And some of those things may be the very thing that you're holding on to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm living proof. If God can change me, he can change anybody. And that's my final thought.
Yeah, man, this has been great. And to talk with you, hear your story, get this story out to people. But the deal is, get your copy of the book, Resurrection Power. You can go to Amazon. You type in the search bar Resurrection Power and Isaac Traylor. And you can scan the QR code that is here on the screen to go right to it. It's a great book. It's a great read. Hope this gives you some antidotes to take with you as you go forward with your lives and your daily activities. I'd like to say thank you. Don't forget that Isaac does own a business, 3i Pressure Washing and Detailing. Last question for you, Isaac. Any plans for a follow-up book?
At some point, yes. I hadn't got started on it yet, but there will be, I ain't gonna say a sequel, but it'll be another journey, some more tidbits that I could offer. Just talking about joy in life after addiction. It will lead you to, man. If you just give your life to God and find something that you're passionate about and run with it. Because God may not be for everybody, but you got a passion in something. But let that passion be your driving force. For me, it was God. But let that driving force take you to new depths in life. But that's it, man. At some point, yes.
Well, hey, I'd like to thank Isaac for taking the time to talk to us today. I'd like to thank you, the listener, for listening to us. Again, this is the More Than Insurance podcast. We want this podcast to be about real people having real experiences that we all go through. So I hope that you're blessed by it and be inspired by it. And again, thank you, Isaac. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thank
God
you.
bless.